Welcome back to another week of virtual art classes with the Lancaster Festival. My name is Karla Young, a licensed K-12 art educator, and I have designed a week of spring-themed art projects, each one linked to the work of a famous artist. I hope you will join me this week and we will spring into art together. Welcome back to our fifth and final Spring into Art project for the week. Today's project is inspired by a rising star on the Mexican art scene. Her name is Sofia Castellanos, and she is known for mural paintings, mostly of butterflies. Today's project is called Beautiful Butterflies. I'll be showing you how to draw and paint a symmetrical butterfly, adding some pom-poms down the center if desired. Here's another example of the same project done by one of my students named Haley. So thank you, Haley, for sharing your artwork with us. This one does not have the pom-poms, so you can decide which way you like it better. Sofia Castellanos is a new artist in Mexico. In recent years, she has gained recognition as an artist, muralist, and illustrator. With a bachelor degree in graphic design, she has grown to create her very own style of fantasy painting using great detail. She often includes butterflies in her work and has said, "Human beings are just like butterflies. We live in a constant state of transformation, always trying to become the best version of ourselves." Sofia's work, like the artist herself, is unique, positive, exotic, and colorful. She says her work allows the viewer to step into a new and more colorful reality. So for today's beautiful butterfly project, you are going to be starting with a piece of white, somewhat sturdy paper. It can be 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12. Because butterflies are symmetrical, meaning they are exactly the same on both sides, I'm going to show you a fun way to make a symmetrical butterfly drawing. So we start by folding this paper in half, okay, like this. And this way we're only going to have to draw half of the butterfly. So make sure your drawing is starting here in the center, right along the fold. And keep in mind we're only drawing half of the body and just one wing. So I'm going to start with a pencil. That way if I make a mistake I can erase. And I'm going to kind of draw a little head shape and a body shape like this. I'll hold that up so you can see what I've done. You can look at pictures of butterflies to do this. You can work from your imagination. That's up to you. Now, if you think of the letter B for butterfly, it would come out and then out again. So think of a letter B as you draw your wing. Now for my butterfly, I'm going to make the top half of my B a little larger than the bottom half. So let's see how this goes. So think of a capital letter B for butterfly, and the bottom is a tad bit smaller than the top. And there's what I have. Feel free to make this wing design as fancy or as simple as you're comfortable with. Now we get to add in some fun details and designs. And this is up to you how you want to design your butterfly wing. Again, from your imagination, or you can look up pictures. And there's half of a butterfly. The next thing you're going to want to do is take a black crayon. If you don't have a black crayon or you don't want to use a black crayon, you could use any dark colored crayon. So maybe purple, maybe blue, something that's going to be dark. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to now press kind of hard with my black crayon and carefully go over my pencil lines. So take your time on this step. And then I'm going to show you a trick for transferring this drawing to the other side of the page. Again, you have to press pretty firmly for the trick to work. All right, so again, there is half of my butterfly. And now, put my crayon down and I'm going to fold this in half again. This time, I'm going to fold it the opposite way so that my butterfly wing is inside and I'm folding it kind of like a book. I'm going to take something hard. I'm going to use the end of my Sharpie marker cap, and I'm going to just start by rubbing over my paper. And we can peek and see if it's working. So do you see what's starting to happen? The crayon from the right side of my drawing is transferring to the left side. So it helps to peek and make sure you're getting all the lines transferred. All right, and I think I've done enough rubbing for it to transfer well enough for me to be able to see it and trace over it one more time. So I'm going to take that same crayon and I'm going to finish out my butterfly. So again, this kind of balance where something's exactly the same on both sides is called symmetry or symmetrical balance. So after we get our lines traced, the next step is watercolor. All right, so now I'm done with the crayon portion of my beautiful butterfly. The next step is adding watercolor. So I'm going to open up my case here, move a few of these items out of my way, and I have some water, I have a paintbrush, and a paper towel in case I need it. And again, if you've been watching along this week, you'll know my advice of putting a little bit of water on top of the colors that you choose to use for this project. All right, and then we're allowing the paint to turn that water the color of the paint. So we're painting with colored water. So I'm going to take this pretty red violet and fill in the first section of my butterfly. Now, if your set doesn't have this many colors, you can actually make this color yourself. I'll show you. You can put a little bit of water in your lid. You could even use, a paper plate or something if you don't want to get your lid messy. We could put a little bit of red here. We could add a little bit of blue. And we could try to make our own red violet. So don't be afraid to practice mixing and making your own colors. If it doesn't turn out the way you wanted, you don't have to use it. Okay, I want my butterfly to be perfectly symmetrical, so I'm going to go back and make sure I'm using this exact same color, and I'm going to paint the other side. Now the fun thing about using watercolors after we have used crayon, it's a technique called crayon resist, because the wax in the crayon is going to push away the water. So you can't cover the crayon with the watercolor. The crayon pushes it right off. So since I am using this color, I may come down here and use it again. Just remember, we want our butterfly to be symmetrical. That means we want it the same on both sides. So if I paint this section in a red violet, I want to come over here and paint that exact same section in the exact same color. So think of it like looking in a mirror. All right, I'm not going to hold this up for you because it might run down the page. I think I'll go with just a regular violet now. I like to go around the edges first. You kind of see how I'm doing that. And then I take it and just fill it in. So we want to do the exact same thing on the other side, which would be this space here. I always turn my paper when I'm working, that way I won't set my hand down in the wet paint. Had to learn that the hard way. All right, I might add this little triangle down here in purple. It's up to you what color you want to paint the body, but I'm going to use black. Okay, so have fun using the watercolor paints and coloring in your beautiful butterfly, and I will see you when it's all dry. So I have been finishing up my watercolor butterfly and letting the paint dry, and now I'm ready for my next step. I'm going to take a pair of scissors and carefully cut out my butterfly. Remember from our project yesterday, the best way to cut is by turning the paper and trying to keep the scissors somewhat straight. So I try to keep the scissors pointed away from me, and then I'm rotating the paper as needed so I can get in those tight angles and get around the curves of the wings. There it is. And now I want to choose a background color that I think will look nice with my butterfly. So I have a red sheet of construction paper here set aside, and I'm going to attach the butterfly to the construction paper. You can use a glue bottle or a glue stick, whatever you have handy at home. If you use a glue stick, you want to put it on generously. If you use a glue bottle, you just want to use small dots, so that glue isn't squirting out on the sides of our butterfly. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to center it up on my page and press down like that. You might notice it's missing something. I want to add some antennas. So I'm going to grab my trusty black Sharpie here and just put a couple antennas on my butterfly. And then if you have some pom-poms, bought these at a local craft store, and I've gone ahead and pulled out the color pink. And for this, I'm going to use a glue bottle because I think that'll stick better than a glue stick. And I'm just going to kind of zigzag a little bit of glue so that my pom-poms can stick into the glue. So again, this is just kind of to add a little element of fun to your project. It's completely optional. If you have any kind of sequins at home, maybe you could add those to your butterfly wings. If you have googly eyes, you could add those. So just have some fun with it. I think I have room for one more. It might take a second for those to kind of set up, but I'll try to hold it up so you can see what I've done. And there it is, your beautiful butterfly. The final project we are going to be doing together is this butterfly stencil project, also inspired by the Mexican muralist Sofia Castellanos. For this project, you are going to need 2 pieces of paper. You're going to need some watercolor sets, and we're going to use these watercolor sets to paint this entire page with color. So as you can see from this example, it's just little swatches of random colors, whatever colors you want to use, however big you want to make the swatches or spots of color, it's completely up to you. Here's another example. So you just want to take your brush, get some water on the brush, put a little bit of water on top of the colors that you want to use, and you're going to just start by painting random sections of color. There is really no right or wrong way to do this. Now I might switch to blue. The one thing I will warn you to be careful about is if you use wet watercolor right up against wet watercolor, the 2 colors are going to blend together. And so, if you're familiar at all with the color wheel, you want to try to use colors that are next door neighbors. So like red is next to orange, which is next to yellow on the color wheel. Green is next to blue, which is next to violet on the color wheel. So if I would touch my blue and my green next to each other, I know that where they mix, we're going to have like a blue-green, and it's still going to look nice. Yellow and blue makes green. So if some of that green mixes in with my yellow, it's going to make a nice yellow-green. I don't have to worry about making a muddy color here. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. I think you have the idea about just filling your page with random splotches of color. All right, so I have this one, and I'm going to continue working with this one because this is dry. And you will notice that the edges of my paper have curled up while it dried. That's because of the moisture in the paint. And so a trick that I've shown you before is to just hold opposite corners of your project and just kind of pull it gently back and forth over the edge of a table. And it's kind of reversing that curl. So that's a fun little trick for trying to uncurl your paper. All right, so this is our background. And then as you can see from my example, I'm actually going to cut out a butterfly and then use the frame and glue it to our background. So let me show you how that's done. I'm going to take this second piece of white paper. You could use a colored paper too if you choose. I'm going to fold this in half. And just like our last project, I am going to draw half of a butterfly. So I want to start on the fold. I'm going to use my pencil, and I'm going to draw, for this one, I'm just going to draw an oval for the body. And again, remember how I explained a capital letter B. So the top half of the B can be large, and the smaller half of the B there for the bottom makes a pretty nice butterfly shape. So we're going to fold that in half, and then we're going to carefully cut this out. So there's the butterfly center that I just cut out. And this is the part I want to work with right now. So this is what we would call the positive space, and this is the negative space. And we're going to glue this onto our watercolor background. You can use a glue stick or you can use a glue bottle. Again, if you use a glue bottle, use it sparingly. If you're using a glue stick, you can be a lot more generous with the application of glue. All right. And now I'm going to carefully place this frame on top of this background. So I don't rip anything. Sometimes it's easier for me to turn it over, and then I can really put some pressure on the back side. We'll see if it sticks. Maybe a little bit more glue in that corner, but I think you get the idea here. And then if you want to add any more decorations, if you want to add maybe some antennas, I pulled out a purple colored pencil. You could use marker, you could use crayon. And I'm just going to draw on some little antennas like that. Maybe we could make some dashed lines here just for fun. So it looks like our butterfly is zooming around our paper. That could be cute. And then don't forget, you still have this awesome butterfly shape, the positive space that we cut out. I would hate to see that go to waste. You could take this and decorate this. You could add pom-poms, you could add markers, a watercolor. You could do something fun with both the butterfly and the butterfly frame. So have fun making your beautiful butterflies and your butterfly stencils. I hope you've enjoyed spending another week with me and the Lancaster Festival and creating some artwork with us. We would love to see some of your creations that you've made at home, so be sure to post pictures of your work online using the hashtag Lancaster Festival.